23.1 is here, and we have a repeat from 14.4. So a 14-minute AMRAP with 60 calorie row, 50 toes to bar, 40 wall balls, 30 cleans, and then 20 ring muscle ups. And if you get to be so lucky, you get to go back on the rower and perhaps even on the toes to bars. Most likely not, but let's see how to make that happen. The big picture for this workout is going to be that approaching it with a smooth, steady pace and breaking up the movements appropriately, especially the toes to bar, is going to be the best way for most people to get the furthest. Now, the row at the start is not going to be that significant for most people, and you're best to approach it with a threshold or slightly slower pace, meaning that when you finish the row, you can just walk off to the toes to bar, jump up and start your first set without any excessive chalking or excessive breaks. If you can't do that, you went too hard. And that pace for most people is going to be a little bit slower than you think or you would like, but it's going to be the smart way to approach that. The toes to bar is probably the most significant movement in this workout for most people, and it will make sense for you, most likely, to break it up to smaller sets than you think from the beginning. Even a set of 10 might be too much for many people. We'll talk about the toes to bar a little bit more afterwards, but for now, just think, break up the toes to bar a little bit more than you think. Now, the wall balls, for most of us, that's not going to be a significant part of this workout. You'll just have to find a way to work through them. The cleans will be steady singles for almost everyone, like we saw on the announcement show. It doesn't make much sense to do touch and go unless you have some insane secret capacity there that we don't know of. And then finally, the ring muscle up is going to be obviously a big divider, whether you have that movement or you don't have that movement, and do you have it under fatigue, especially with midline fatigue from those toes to bars, because it's going to make the transition significantly harder. So one more time, the big picture here is really to approach this smooth and steady and break the sets in every movement appropriately to your capacity so that you can be fresh enough to try those muscle ups or to get to those muscle ups. Let's break the workout down one movement at a time. So for the rower, like I said before, approach this with your threshold pace or slightly slower pace. And the idea here is that if you try to make up time on the rower, but then you lose all that time in the transition toes to bar, or you're too gassed to do the sets that you intended on toes to bar, or you have to rest too long between the sets, then you've lost all that time that you made up. Also, you've accumulated this debt that you might be paying off for the rest of the workout if you can't catch your breath, if you can't recover from all that effort that you put on the rower. So go a little bit slower on the rower than you think, and then when you get off the rower, you can just walk to toes to bar, jump up, and start your first set. Now, one more tip on the rower is to keep your grip relaxed. You want to keep your forearms fresh for the toes to bars, for the cleans, and for the muscle ups. So relaxed grip, slightly slower pace than you would think at first. Now, when you get to toes to bar, it is tempting to do a first set, do a big set. This will not be a good strategy for almost anyone. If you are very, very good, like the guys and the girls doing the workout in the announcement show, you might get away with this. Big set and then chip away. For most people, it'll be much better off to do a little bit smaller set at the beginning, 15, even 10, even less. So you might do sets of 10, 1 or 2 sets, then break it down, do 8, 7, do 5s. Just make sure that you don't go too close to failure. In fact, for most people, what might be a really good strategy is to break this down to 10 sets of 5. Those small sets with short breaks allow you to catch your breath, allow you to get off tension, gives your muscles some blood flow, it allows you to recover, and you will work through those toes to bars much faster. You're not just thinking of how big a set you're doing, how fast you're moving, but you're thinking of that total time spent on the toes to bar, which is the work time plus the rest time. So you want to minimize both of those. Ideally, the work time is going to be more than the rest time, of course. So one more time, smaller sets on the toes to bar than you think. Save your hip flexors, save your abs, save your grip for the ring muscle ups at the end. Now, once you get through the toes to bars, you're going to go to wall balls. The wall balls are not such a big deal in this workout. It's not too many reps. Just remember that you have that higher standard getting clearly over the line. Just make sure you read the rules as always. But the wall balls, you can break them down in many ways and be successful. You can go unbroken, If you have very high capacity, you can do a bigger set and then finish off like 25 and 15, for example. Or you can do smaller sets. You can do 10s across, or you could, for example, go 12 and then do 10, 10, 8, so that you have a sense of getting somewhere. You do a bigger set and smaller set, and then the smaller set at the end. Either way, don't worry too much about the wall ball. Make sure you hit the standard. Make sure you have a good distance away from the wall so that you are catching the ball effectively. But this is not a major part of this workout. Now, once you finish the wall balls, you're going to end up on those cleans. And for everyone, I would say for everyone, unless you're some ninja exception, you're going to go with singles. The question is, how fast can you cycle those singles? And a good idea here is to stay close to the bar. Don't walk away during the rest. If you need to chalk, of course you're going to chalk, but your goal is to stay with the barbell until the work is done. And you're just going to chip away. And now remember that the tie break is going to be at the end of the cleans. No one's going to finish 2 sets of cleans, but it's going to be at the end of the first set of cleans. So if you think you don't have any muscle ups, you might want to hurry up on the wall balls a little bit more than you would otherwise. And you definitely want to push your pace on those power cleans more than you would if you were going to finish some ring muscle ups. So make sure you pace accordingly. If no ring muscle ups, push the pace. If you might have ring muscle ups, or definitely have them, you might have to ease off the pace, especially at the end, just a little bit, again, to make a smoother transition to the rings. Now, on the rings, you're likely going to do a smaller set than you think at the beginning because of your midline being taxed. It's going to make the transition a little bit slower, so you might need to increase your swing at the bottom to have a little bit more momentum, a little bit more speed, and you need to be aggressive on that turnaround if you want to get on top of the rings. There will be a lot of people who will be very surprised by their loss of ring muscle up capacity when they get there because of the taxing of the midline from the toes to bars and the fact that you are going to be breathing heavy at this point. If you need to rest between the ring muscle up sets, make sure that you rest sufficiently so that actually makes a difference. You probably need to rest minimum 15 seconds between the sets to have some recovery, especially if you dig relatively deep in your set. And the closer to failure you went, the longer a rest you're going to need. Look at the timer, pay attention to it, make sure you rest enough, and then make sure that you're not resting more than you need to. If your rest period starts to stretch to 30 seconds and you have muscle ups in a typical environment, that's going to be too much. Of course, if you're going for your first ring muscle up, make sure you feel safe doing it. And in that case, you can take those longer breaks. Take a longer break before you go for your first attempt. Trust your technique and then commit fully to every single repetition. Now, one more time, the big picture here is going to be pace yourself at the beginning, break the movements down into smart sets early on, those toes to bars especially. Don't worry about the wall ball too much. Fast singles, as fast as you can make them on the cleans, and then let's see what you have on those ring muscle ups. Remember, the sets will be shorter than you probably think for almost everyone. If you're one of those lucky people who makes it back to the rower, it's go time. Go as hard as you can because you're probably not going to make the toes to bars. And if you are one of those few people who will make it back to toes to bars, you better hold on and push yourself at the end, even chipping away at doing singles, doubles, triples, whatever it needs to be at the end so that you keep moving until the bell goes off. First one of the year, it's a good one. You get to go a little slower than you think, my kind of workout. Hope you enjoy it. See you next week.